What's up, everyone? Thank you for listening to another episode of the Sawyer Brothers Show. Please be sure to follow and subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and then follow our podcast accounts and SDI accounts on all socials. We post daily on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube. We appreciate the support and listens greatly. Today's episode is sponsored by the Hockey Marker. The Hockey Marker is a marker that's designed specifically for ice surfaces. Its specially formulated ink works on ice and provides strong visibility during practices and camps. It provides bold and clear lines, making drills, skills training, and games easier to follow. Once the session is done, the lines are erased by the Zamboni's regular resurfacing. As a coach, I run a lot of small area games at different areas on the ice. The Hockey Marker allows me to tighten up the space with actual lines that players can see. Listeners can use the promo code Sawyer to receive a 15% discount on their website. All right, on today's episode, I speak with Landon Nycz. Landon currently plays NCAA Division I college hockey for the University of Massachusetts. He grew up in Brownstown and played youth hockey for various Metro Detroit teams, including Victory Honda and Oakland. Following his Midget 15 season, he played 2 full seasons of junior hockey in the USHL for Waterloo and Sioux City. He just started his first season at UMass as a true freshman. He's also a prospect for the 2026 NHL Draft. I met Landon through SDI back in 2017 when he was just 9 years old, and I've followed him ever since. He's always been a good player, but his career has really jumped off over the past few years, and it's been fun to see. Every journey has its own challenges, and I know from other private conversations that Landon's journey is no different in that way. His commitment, sacrifices, and resiliency have gotten him to where he is today. Although he's only 18, his maturity and humble attitude is very impressive. Those are things NHL organizations will continue to focus on as draft day gets closer. Regardless of what happens this year and beyond, I'm confident that he will find success in life. It was fun to pick his brain on a whole bunch of stuff in this episode. I hope you enjoy. Landon Nycz, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. What are you up to today?
Nothing much, just got home from the rink and getting some food at class, so.
It's a Wednesday night when we're recording this. What's your week schedule look like right now?
Monday through Thursday right now are, taken up by classes and practice, and then we're on the road on Thursday, get in Friday, pregame skate, play Stonehill in Boston on Friday, and then we only have one game this weekend, so we've got the weekend off.
Oh, nice. Okay. So you're obviously a freshman at UMass. Tell us a little background on your growing up, like where you played youth hockey, juniors, and how you ended up here.
Yeah, so I started playing AAA when I was 10 for Victory Honda. I played there for 4 years. Played my 14U year at CompuWare, 15U year at Oakland Junior Grizzlies. Was then drafted to the Waterloo Blackhawks in the USHL. Played there my 16-year-old year. Went back to Waterloo the second year. Ended up getting traded to the Sioux City Musketeers, and I'm here now at UMass. So
when you first went to Waterloo, were you thinking like that year before, and when you were playing I think at that time you were at OJG, were you thinking like a year from right now you're going to be making that jump to the USHL, or did that just kind of come out of like not come out of nowhere, but was that a part of your plan for that next year?
It definitely wasn't. I was on the bubble of getting drafted, so I was a 9th round pick in phase 1, and there's 10 rounds. I think now there's 15. But I wasn't expected to make a team or make the roster. It was sort of thing. I went to main camp, was able to impress the GM, and got myself a training camp spot. So I had to fight my way from training camp into the actual roster for the season.
What was that experience like being there? I mean, you made it as when you were, I guess, 15, almost turning 16. What was that experience like being one of the youngest guys in the whole league?
It was really tough. It was a shock. USHL is a hard league. I guess now it's a changing landscape, but when I was there, it was really hard. A lot of guys were older than me. It was my first time away from home, and every day it was a battle to, stay there.
Do you find that the jump from when you were playing just midget AAA hockey to that jump to USHL, what do you think was the biggest thing? Is there anything that sticks out, or is it just simply the speed and the skill of all those players?
It's a lot of speed and a lot of skill for sure. I think another thing that jumps out at me is the depth. Like everyone at that level is good, and everyone at that level is dangerous. So as a defenseman, like you might be. For me, I played against a lot of third and fourth lines because I was
Hmm.
so young, but those are still really dangerous players that are high end guys.
Sure. Do you think that your second year in the USHL, did you make a significant jump from your first year just with that experience, or what was that second year like compared to the first?
I would say yeah. I definitely had more confidence in myself. Was able to return to the same team. My point production jumped. Um, I felt like a new player. It was kind of like learning curves over. Like you're expected. It doesn't really matter. You're 16 beginning of the season. Like you're a second year player, so
Hmm.
you need to act like it.
Nice. Well, so if we fast forward and I'll kind of jump around on stuff throughout this episode, like youth
Yeah.
hockey, junior college, but just right on that topic, obviously, we were starting off your freshman year at UMass. We just talked quickly on, you played 2 years in the USHL, and when you started that 2 years ago, you were, like we just said, 15 turning 16. You
Yep.
just had your 18th birthday this past weekend and played your first weekend of NCAA Division One college hockey. So is there anything from being a young player at the USHL level to now being one of the younger players at the collegiate level? Is there anything that you can draw on from your experience that you think is going to help you this time around?
I think so. Yeah. I think when I was 15, I think I was really underdeveloped and raw, and I think I was looking at it as like, all right, well, like I'm 15, I'm not, necessarily supposed to be that good of a player. I'm not supposed to succeed. I think I look at it a little bit differently now, like where I'm like, I'm here, for a reason, and I think I can make more of an impact in things, and I'm still learning. Like there's a lot that I have left to learn, and I think just being a sponge, um,
Sure.
learning from my older teammates as well was something that I might have not known to do when I was just starting the USHL. But I think you can learn a lot from especially the defensemen around me.
I think that's huge is having those good role models and mentors
Yeah,
around you. Are you the youngest on the team right now?
I am. Yes.
What about that defensive core? Are there guys that are like, do you have any like vets on the team that are like 4 year guys, like in their, early mid 20s, or what's that
Yep.
setup like?
We our two captains are actually both defensemen. They're our first pair of defensemen. So one played at Denver for 2 years and then transferred. He's on his second year here, and then another one has been here for all 4 years. So I've gotten a lot of good stuff from them and just kind of how to play here and a lot of tips of the trade just from them being in college for all 4 years and then being seniors. And then I've also got two
Sure.
returning sophomores who are both drafted. One's a Detroit Red Wing draft pick and one's a Colorado draft pick, and they have helped me out a ton because they're both closer in age to me, and they both had really good freshman years that I'm trying to emulate. So they have also been a really big help.
Nice. That's good stuff. Well,
Yeah.
let's rewind a little bit. I want to touch on some stuff with youth hockey, and we'll kind of make our way around. So, we rewind. I first meet you back in, it was like 2017 when you first came to an SDI skate. I
Yeah.
had just had dinner with Griff right before we jumped on here, and he told me to bring up this specific memory he has. So I'm going to ask if you remember this. So one time we're on the ice before the skate. This was either 2017 or 2018, and we're skating around, at the beginning of practice and or beginning of the camp skate. Everyone's just kind of shooting pucks and skating around. And Griff, thinking he's cool, trying to just like stick handle and shoot, he just rips one off the crossbar, and it
Yeah.
just goes right over into the corner and it drills you in the head. Thankfully, you had a helmet on, but it drilled you in
Yeah.
the head. Do you remember that?
I do. I got ear hold. I do, like, now that you bring it up, I was thinking about it, and yeah, I do vividly remember that at Lincoln Park. So
He
or
uh he,
Lincoln
he
Park.
brings that up occasionally because he's like,
Yeah.
he's like, that was a learning lesson for him. He's like, I'm 19 or so, just starting to coach, and I'm skating around and I shoot a puck and it just drills this kid. And then, like from our viewpoint, like he's got to go over, make sure you're okay, and then also got to go make sure that your parents are okay and they're not going to go beat him up. So
Yeah.
he was pretty concerned in the moment, and when I was just eating with him, he's like, you got to ask him about that. So you start at that time, and the one thing I remember about you is you could always skate, you could always handle the puck. You kind of looked like a forward at times. Did you play forward at all growing up, or were you always a D?
I was a forward. I was actually a center for a while. I think until I was 11 or 12, I was a center, and then I would switch from center to defense.
Was that a decision that you wanted, or did your coach just change you?
My coach at the time would just kind of flip me around, whatever he felt, I guess, was best. I don't really remember the reasoning. I think it was because I was, a pretty good skater and I could move around the ice really pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was just kind of whatever he felt, I guess.
Nice. So you play a little bit. You play for Honda. You make that jump to AAA. You play for CompuWare and you play for OJG.
Yep.
How would you, when you look back at your youth career, how do you describe or how would you reflect on that youth career as far as like, is there anything that sticks out specifically that got you to where you are now? Like, is there any, like, do you think it was playing high level competition? Do you think it was your coaching, your work ethic, yourself? Like, what do you think from playing youth hockey in Detroit got you to where you are now?
I think it was a lot of just persistence and kind of sticking with some ups and downs. Like until I was 14, I was like a pretty good player, and I wasn't really thinking like, oh, like maybe there's a future in this for me. Like I was just playing and having fun. Got to my 14th year, realized I'm actually like not that great. Thankfully, I hit puberty before my 15th year. Um, but I'll go back to the 14th year. I was thinking about just like going and playing high school hockey, as you know,
Mm-hmm.
um, and just kind of finishing out my 4 years, going to my freshman year, and just play high school hockey, and then kind of call it after that. I didn't really know what the game had in store for me, but thankfully I didn't. I went to Oakland my 15th year, and it was really good for me because I played a lot. We weren't the best team, um, but I was able to play a lot, so I was learning a lot. I was able to showcase myself a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So that helped with, me starting to talk to colleges and me being drafted to the USHL. So I would say if there's some advice that I can give someone, it would be go where you're going to be showcased. And I mean, as long as like you're working hard, you're going to showcase yourself in the right light.
That's huge. I think that's super valuable insight because so many players and unfortunately a lot of parents are just constantly trying to look to get their kid on the best number one AAA team at
Yeah.
all times. And it's you don't need to be in that position always. You need to be in somewhere where they appreciate you and where you're
Yeah.
playing exactly like you
Yeah.
said. So so you would agree with that standpoint then?
I would. Yeah. I'll like kind of round that out. I was on a very good team my 14th year, and I was a late birthday. I had not hit puberty yet. Like I wasn't very good. I got buried. And by going to, maybe a team that's in 30s or 40s, like not as
Mm-hmm.
good in Michigan, like I was able to develop a lot because I was playing a lot. And ultimately like that helped me a ton.
Yeah. What about so you're playing at that time and you hit your growth spurt, you're playing in a
Mhm.
for a team that, you're developing and you're getting ice time. And then you said at that time that's kind of when you started thinking that there could be hockey for you in the future, whether
Yeah,
that's, juniors or college or whatever it may be. Um do you remember the first time you kind of thought about the potential of USHL, or was that just like, something like a pipe dream?
I do. I started to kind of hear, like, I kind of started to understand like how juniors worked and how the USHL draft worked.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, I also got an advisor. So he was kind of, filling me in on how the next year is going to look. And I really started to realize it around January. I got my first call from a college on January 1st, which is when they can, reach out to you. And that's when I was like, all right, like maybe, like I have a shot of, playing juniors down the line. And I remember my coach sitting me down. He's like, I don't know if you're ever going to play in the USHL, but he's like, I definitely think you're going to play college hockey somewhere. And it's funny now because I ended up playing in the USHL like 6 months later.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it's a funny joke that, we have, but yeah, it wasn't really something I thought about until really late.
When you get that first call, so this is your 15's year, correct?
Yep.
Because
Yep.
it's the year leading into the draft in that spring and summer. So when you
Yep.
get that first call on January 1st from a college coach, what do they say? They just say, "Hey, my name, is it like just introductory, or like what do they talk to you about?"
It's very surface level. They just want to get to know you, build a relationship with you. I eventually went on a visit to the school. And it's just very surface level. They just want to get to know you and your family, and it's kind of like a background check. They want to get to know the person before they get to know the player. Like I'm still 15. They
Mm-hmm.
have no idea what I'm going to be doing next year. So it's very just introductory, like get to know you.
And when you have that conversation, does that just like motivate you even more because you realize it's attainable?
No, I would say it motivated me a lot. I think it was one of those things where it's like, all right, like I was already a highly driven player,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it was like, all right, like you're really like you're close. Like it just made me work that much harder, and it it ended up panning out for me in that kind of aspect of being able to play college hockey. So yeah,
Sure.
I'm forever grateful for me kind of realizing like, hey, like you have some potential here. Like let's not have regret when you're done.
Right. For sure. So you go through the experience, you get drafted in the SHL. Tell us about that, about how you make that team, because I know you said earlier you're I think you said ninth round pick. You go to
Yeah,
camp, and maybe the expectations not to make that team. So how does that all come about for you?
yeah, I had a lot of expectations, and none of them were to make the team. My expectations were, maybe I'll be there next year, or maybe I'll be there in 2 years. There were four defensemen drafted in front of me, so I was like, all right, like I'm definitely not high on the priority list. Um, but I went to main camp. I moved pucks really well. I didn't do anything flashy. Like there was no Kale McCarr highlight reels. It was extremely simple, meat and potatoes, and just move the puck and then be good defensively. And that's what they were looking for. And they're like, we think we can develop, some other parts of your
Hmm.
game. And ultimately, that was how I ended up getting a training camp invite.
So were you like shocked, or like if your expectations were to develop for a year or two from now, what was that like?
Yeah, I was pretty surprised. Like coming out of main camp, like I felt good. Like I thought I had a really good main camp, and like, but also it's a main camp, so it's like I've never
Hmm.
been to a main camp before. I don't really know like what to expect. But then I made the final All Star game. I was the only '07 in the final one, so I was like, all right, like maybe I've got a shot here. And then I ended up sitting down with the GM and coach, and they told me, and I was I was shocked. Like I remember walking out to the parking lot and like telling my parents because they were driving me to all this stuff.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, like they want me to come to training camp. If I do good at training camp, like I'm gonna stay. They told me like pack a big suitcase just in case you do stay. And they're like, "Uh, what? So
Yeah.
it was pretty funny.
I remember that exact story, and just being like, "All right, well, I guess you're packing in case you get invited to stay, and I guess you're moving there and going to school there and the whole thing." So,
Yeah, yeah.
so you start that season off. Were you playing in like a regular lineup, like in the lineup, or were you getting scratched, or what was that like to start?
For the first half of the season, there was me and another defenseman. We were 7-8, so we were getting scratched every other game.
Hmm.
Um, so that was tough, like learning how to be a scratch and learning how to kind of get back into the lineup. And it ended up working out well, like towards the second half of the year. I was consistently in the lineup as the seventh defenseman or as fifth or sixth defenseman. Um, so yeah, it's a interesting kind of learning experience to get scratched. Like it's not easy. Um,
Sure.
but it definitely lights a fire under you and it makes you kind of look inward first, or you should have a inward first mentality. Like, what can I do? And, you know, where do I need to grow?
Were your coaches telling you why you were scratched, or was it kind of just left to you to kind of figure that out?
Some of it was them telling me. It was mostly because like we had a pretty good decor and
Mm-hmm.
like I was just really raw and I wasn't as
Mm-hmm.
developed. So a lot of my reps and a lot of my confidence had to stem from practice. And they kind of told me that they were like, we think like your first half of the season is probably gonna be pretty slow. Like you're not gonna play that much.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second half, like it'll start to pick up. So
Is that what happened?
it is what happened a little bit. I definitely had a better second half of the year. I was in the lineup a lot more. I think I got scratched maybe 7 times that season, and they were all before December. So
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely a first start of the year. So you
yeah,
play that year and you build your confidence and get adjusted to the game and those bigger players, those faster players, all the depth, like you already mentioned, like you said, like third and fourth line guys, even they can play hockey too. Like they're
yeah.
legit. So you go home that summer and you get back into another year of off ice training and that development. So was there anything that you really were focused on from your first year of juniors into your second year?
I wanted to get heavier. That was one thing that I wanted to do,
Mm-hmm.
and I wanted to obviously like that year. I wasn't like a skilled player. I didn't touch the puck a lot. Like it was very, touch it, move it, go.
Mm-hmm.
So that was one thing I wanted to work on in the summer was like getting back to, kind of what I was doing in 15U where it was like, you know, I was able to handle the puck a lot more and have it on my stick and make plays and stuff. So those were two big things for me.
Are you someone that's constantly like working out and shooting pucks and stick handling, or what do you find has helped you the most with throughout your career off the ice?
That's off the ice, it's being in the gym for me. That's where I actually stem a lot of my confidence from. Like knowing that I put in a lot of work throughout the summer, it makes you think that you deserve more, and most times you get what you deserve, I think. So
Mm-hmm.
um the more work you put in, I usually you're gonna get out. So that's big for me in the summer, is always being in the gym, being around the rink. So
Yeah, I totally agree with that. That's a good mentality. It's for me, it's like, they always say, like, when you're a kid and you got to do a presentation and you're a little nervous and you
yeah,
don't want to stand up there. And then it's like you practice what you're going to talk about and then you
yeah,
write the stuff and you practice. And the more you practice, you're still probably got some butterflies going up. Like most people have a
mm,
difficult time with public speaking. But when you're prepared, you probably feel a little bit better. And then you're in the moment and you're like, yeah, I'm fine. It's just that
100%.
that initial
Yeah,
part. So I totally get that. I think most people um, that are people that do try to prepare, they can definitely relate to that because it's it helps you, like you said, you build confidence and you just get a better feeling going into that moment.
yeah,
So
I agree.
what was that second year of the USHL? Did all of that you wanted, like as far as touching the puck more and being active more with all of that, did that come to fruition, or did you like how did you grow throughout that second year?
Yeah, it was a lot different for me. I was able to step into a special teams role on power play and penalty kill, and I was getting more minutes. And as a second year guy, you get a little bit more leash, which is nice. Like I'm able to, take more of some risks or something like that, and have some more leash. But I think it was time for me where I was like, all right, it's time to go. Like you got to have a good year if you want to go into school. Before that, or at the time, it was CHL's not open, so
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to come back and play a third year in the USHL for my draft year, or I'd prefer not to. Um, so I was like, all right, it's time to go. Got to have a good showing, and set yourself up for a good draft year.
So when did you that kind of like leads from, kind of puts a bow on the junior stuff and kind of takes you right into the college part of your journey. So you make that decision of how you want to where you want to be playing going into the draft year specifically.
Yeah.
Talk about your process of your committing to UMass, because I know
Yeah.
you were like, obviously you mentioned as 15, January 1st you start getting calls, and I know you're talking to other coaches and other schools throughout that time period. What was that whole process like, and how'd you end up at UMass?
It was a really fun process for me. It was a lot, but it was really fun.
Mm-hmm.
Um, for the first couple months, you can't, or till August 1st, you can't go on any official visits and you can't get offered. So until then, it was, I would talk to schools. I went on a couple visits. I visited Michigan State, UMass twice, Penn
Mm-hmm.
State twice, and Northern Michigan and Western Michigan. So that was really fun, just kind of getting to see new places and going to meet the coaches and get on some campuses. Like that was pretty cool for me as a young kid.
And just to
Um,
interrupt you, you had this is after your first year of juniors or before?
this is before my first year of juniors, right
Okay,
before my
gotcha.
first year.
So just after you finish your
Mhm.
15 year and you're going
Yep.
into your first year of the USHL. Okay, awesome.
Yep.
So you're going on all these tours. What else?
Um, yeah, I'm just building connections, and then it kind of gets August 1st, and you're like, all right, like who's gonna offer?
Mm-hmm.
So on August 1st, I had four offers, and I ended up finishing with six when I committed, and then I kind of just was like, I'm happy with what I've got, and it came down to UMass or Penn State, which Penn State looked a lot different than it did right now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, back when I was committing, and for me, I felt UMass was the best fit. Coaching staff wise, and just as a whole, like they turn out defensemen
Mm-hmm.
really well, and I just thought it was the best fit for me.
So did you commit there in August, or how long did that take?
It took 10 days. My recruiting was open for 10 days, so I committed on August 10th. Yeah.
Ever a consideration of decommitting in a sense and going elsewhere? Have you been? I mean, this is 2 years leading up to this to finally play your first game. What was like? Did you ever have a time where you were considering, or what's that been?
There were some times where I was thinking like maybe if I don't get the chance to go in as my freshman year, there's a possibility of looking somewhere else, especially um very very early in the year of my second junior year. Um, but I wouldn't really say it was something I ever considered. It was just some passing thoughts.
Sure. I think that's healthy and normal.
Yeah.
It's have an idea of where you are, and it's you don't have to set in stone forever, and still gotta consider the whole thing. So, you said you went on two visits to UMass. So
Yeah.
similar to the question about kind of like that phone call that you get from the coaches initially when you go on these visits to these various schools, are they just walking you in right to the rink and then they just show you the locker room and say, "All right, have a good day," or like what do they do on those visits?
Usually the visits have an itinerary, so it's very planned out. They're usually a couple of hours long. Usually they'll start at the rink, kind of take you through there. They're trying to get you a feel of the rink. And then every visit I went on, they took me through the campus. So you kind of get a feel for that, some academic buildings and stuff like that. And then they'll take you to other sports facilities. Like I know Michigan State, they took me to the press box of the football field. That was
Mm,
pretty cool. Um, so yeah, different things like that. It's not just, here's the rink, here's the locker room. Cool.
yeah.
All right, you can fly back to Michigan now. It's a little bit more personal. Like they'll go out to dinner, and stuff, and get to know my parents. So, Northern Michigan actually took me rock jumping,
Mm.
on my visit, which was pretty fun. So yeah, I've got a video of me jumping off a cliff on my visit.
Did they tell you that in advance, or were they just like, "All right, hey, you're here, let's go here"?
No, they were like, we've never done this before, but I did say I liked outdoors.
Oh,
So like, there's a cliff jumping spot or a rock jumping spot, about 10 minutes away if you want to go. And they're right up there in Marquette. So I was like, yeah, sure, why not? So I've got, 3 guys in polos and khakis following me around. Everyone's in bathing suits, and I get up to this rock in shorts, and they're like, "All right, like go ahead." So I just jump right off, and it was a really good time.
And this was just the visit for you, or were there other players visiting also?
No, it was just for me. All the visits I was on, it was just me, which was nice. You kind of get to build more of a connection and stuff. So
Nice. Well, I haven't heard anyone ever getting taken to cliff jumping or rock jumping on a visit. So
yeah,
that's a unique story for you, I'm sure.
yeah, no, it is.
Nice. So you end up committing to UMass, and then you've got this whole like 2-year waiting game while you're playing juniors. What was
Mhm.
the anticipation like throughout that, especially that second year, like knowing that it's coming up and you finally get to go here and do the whole thing that you've been waiting for? Like, were you just chomping at the bit all last year, just ready to go?
I was really chomping at the bit, and I really didn't know what I was getting myself into. Like, you kind of imagine what college is.
Sure.
Um, and it's a lot different in some ways and similar in some ways, but I didn't really know what I was getting myself into. So I just knew I was excited and ready to go.
So you're one of the rarities in hockey, especially where you are like an actual freshman at 18 years old. So
Mhm.
many guys in hockey, of course, with the landscape of junior hockey, they'll go to high school, even if they're playing AAA, graduate, go play a year or two of juniors, and then a lot of times they go to college when they're 19, 20, even 21.
Yep.
So you went in as a true freshman at 18 years old, technically at 17 years old. Was that something that you feel is like a little unique, like for your team and from other guys you've heard? Like, do you feel like the baby or like the younger brother with a lot of these guys because you are just the actual youngest age?
Yeah, I wouldn't say that there's a shortage of jokes and stuff going on. Especially when I was 17. Now that I've turned 18, it's calmed down maybe a little bit, but
Sure.
yeah, no, there's definitely I definitely feel it and stuff like that.
You've played uh what, 2 full games this past weekend, and then I
Yep.
believe, did you guys have a exhibition game the weekend before?
We had like an inter squad scrimmage.
Inter squad, okay.
Yeah.
So you had a full summer of training, or I guess what, July on or so, July
Yep.
August.
Hmm.
What was that scenario like, getting acclimated to the university and going through their program? Like, did they have everything planned out for you with the training for training with
Yeah.
the team? How'd that all go?
Summer's kind of where you build your conditioning for the year and kind of figure out, what the group's made out of. So the summer's meant to be tough. The workouts we do were crazy. No coaches are allowed in the ice, so everything's a captain ran practice.
Mm,
Um, but yeah, once you get here, the workouts programmed for you. Freshmen have a little bit different of a workout than the upperclassmen, just because most freshmen, need to put on some weight once they get here. So yeah, everything was planned out and really methodical, but it was an adjustment. I took one class. I took a history of baseball class, so if you want to
okay.
call that a class. But
Did
yeah,
you
it,
learn
it was
anything?
I did a little bit, yeah.
Wow, history of
Don't ask me
baseball.
what I learned, but
Did they assign you to that class, or did they give you a short list of options? How'd you end up in that class?
they gave me 6 options. My first 2 were taken, so
Okay.
I,
Wow.
I, I was like, I'll throw this one on there for fun, and I
There you
ended
go.
up getting it. So
Nice. Was there anything like unique or different with the training that they put together compared to what you were used to?
just so much assault bike, like
Yeah.
yeah, just so much assault bike, and lifting in the summer was a lot of fun because you'd go Monday through Friday, and you're getting to know the guys and stuff. But
Hmm.
it was a lot of conditioning, and ended up putting on about 8 pounds in the summer
Nice.
from the beginning of the summer. So not just at UMass, but um, but did put on weight and stuff. So
Nice. Cool. Well, on the playing side of things, like I mentioned, you've played a couple games now. You played your first weekend. You scored a goal. What was the biggest difference in those two games at this level that you've played so far?
Just the details are a lot tighter, I think, from juniors. And once again, like everyone's good. Like third and
Mhm.
fourth liners in college are even better than third and fourth liners in the USHL, which makes the game even harder, especially for defensemen. And I think there's still a lot to learn, and there's still a lot of details that I lack defensively, just from being a freshman. Like
Sure.
that stuff takes time. But yeah, the game's fast. Like we play on a really big sheet, which gives a lot more time and space along the walls.
Mhm.
So that's nice. So then when we get on a tighter sheet, the game happens a little bit quicker for us, and it helps us out. I think we're better conditioned because we have to go an extra 10 to 15 feet when we play at home.
Is it an Olympic sheet?
I think it's bigger than an Olympic sheet.
Really?
Yeah, I think it's a really weird size rink. It was the same rink I played like in Waterloo. There's a lot of space.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hmm. I couldn't tell that when I just watched the highlights the other day. That's interesting. I'll have to look at that.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes a huge difference for the way you can set up different systems with your team, and then also
Yeah.
as a player, I'm sure you'll find this out. Unfortunately, if you haven't, getting bagged on a sheet like that, I'm sure will be a whole different element.
Yeah,
So
I get doing boards on that sheet just because it's so much wider kind of sucks.
yeah,
We've found that out. So
yeah, I'm sure.
yeah.
So you score your first goal in your second game. What was
Yep.
that feeling like?
It was a huge weight lifted off my shoulder. Like I was thinking back to my first year in juniors. I think it took me 38 games to score my first goal. So to be able to get it out of the way is like I was like, you know,
Yeah.
thank you. Like
Yeah.
just put it in early. Don't have to like be sweating it out later in the year. If it comes down to that.
Do you feel that you were able to play your style of game or your style of play this weekend, or was that like a whole? Were you just like trying to just get in it and feel it?
I think I actually, was able to play to my identity and stuff this weekend. I think like I had a lot of, decent chances, and I think I played well, defensively. Um, I think I had a total of 11 shots through both the games.
I saw that.
Um, so that was good. That means I'm getting up in the play and I'm moving my feet, which is always a good sign. And then, physicality was there as well. So I thought I was able to play, to my style.
I checked the box score on Saturday throughout the night. I kept checking Twitter and refreshing it. And when I saw the whole thing get finalized on Saturday night, it said 0-0, and then it said 5. And I was like,
Mhm.
does this guy have a fight in his first game? I'm like, he just got a 5-minute major in his first college hockey game. And then I scrolled over a little bit further, and it was shots. And it
Oh,
was like he had 5 shots, and I was like, all right, that's I was like, no way. Did he actually just fight someone at a level of hockey where you're not supposed to be fighting and it's his first game? So 5 shots is pretty awesome. A fight would have been a whole different story to tell, but I was,
yeah,
uh, I was glad to
yeah,
see the five shots.
yeah.
So you go through that weekend and you play those two games, and do you have any main takeaways from the weekend that you're already thinking about moving forward? Like you said, you got to kind of feel like like yourself and get that monkey off your back. Like, are there any things that you're thinking about heading into this weekend and the rest of the season?
I think for me, it's just making sure my checking details are there. Working with my coaches on what they need more of from me,
Mm-hmm.
for them to feel more comfortable in putting me in different situations late in the game. So yeah, it's a lot of talking to them and kind of figuring out what they want from me, and the coaching staff here is great about that. They're really good at communicating that, especially with me, being a younger guy that they're trying to help along and make sure that I'm a lockdown defenseman and that kind of stuff. So
Is there a lot of video that you guys are doing where you are?
I do, yeah, we do a lot of video.
What is the situation? I mean, as far as like, do you model your game after someone? Do you have a favorite NHL player? This will be a question that you're asked a lot. Maybe you already
Yeah,
have been asked this. Do you have an answer?
I've been asked quite a few times. I would say as far as player comps, I've been given Ivan Provorov, Mike Matheson, and Jacob Slavin
Mm,
as my player comps. I think if I could pick someone, I would lean closer to Devon Tays a little bit, where he plays a really quiet game. He's not really the flashiest, but he's a left shot defenseman. He can skate well. He has a good two-way presence,
Sure.
but he's not going to necessarily be the flashiest guy on the ice.
So when you think about your game, you're thinking about it like you're taking pride in playing two ways and kind of what you just described there, like kind of quiet but two ways can produce offensively, but that's you're not just out there to score goals.
Yeah, yeah, definitely not. Like being responsible on both sides of the puck, and chipping in on offense when I can and when it's
Nice.
the right time.
Do you have any guys on your team on the on defense that are just like the high flying offensive defenseman?
We do, yeah. He runs our power play one. Francesco Dell'Olce, he was third round pick in his draft year two to Colorado. He matched Cale Makar's freshman point like total, or not total but pace.
Sure.
And he's a really good player. I can learn a lot from him when he has the puck. He's really good with the puck, and he had a big time goal on Saturday to win the game. So
Nice. You're at a school where Kale McCarr obviously played. You've mentioned him twice here, I think. So
mhm.
is it just like he's just a different level of legend at that school? Like is the
Yeah,
whole locker room around based on Kale McCarr pictures and stuff?
I think there's one in the rink, and or I think there's two in the rink. I think one's his Hobie Baker picture, and then
Mm,
there's another picture of him in the practice rink. Um, he's obviously, everyone kind of knows he's a product of UMass and that kind of stuff. He doesn't get talked about as much as you would probably think from the coaches and stuff. But yeah, he's definitely a presence everywhere. He's definitely in the back of your mind if you think about UMass. So
yeah, for sure. I mean, he got called up at the end of to the NHL at the end of his year, and I think it was he one of them where his first game was playoffs, I believe, or
I think
right.
so. Yeah, I think he was one of those players.
Yeah, that's crazy. So,
Yeah.
like, kind of switching to that, you're obviously in a good spot. You played two games. I don't want to go too crazy and think about everything in the future, but it's natural. Like you're on all these lists to be a prospect for the 2026 NHL draft. Is that something you're thinking about, or is that something that you're just aware of and you're pushing it off?
It's something that I think about. I think it's something that I have to be kind of aware about. With different things and doing questionnaires and stuff like that, and talking to in teams. I try not to look at lists and stuff. I kind of have an idea of the list, but I think if you look at a positive list, great. That's cool. If you look at a negative list, you just gotta say the same thing. Like it's whatever.
Sure.
No one's predicting what's gonna happen October 8th
Mm-hmm.
for the draft. So you kind of gotta let it play out and pan out before you get too wrapped up into that kind of stuff.
Are you receiving that like that insight that you just give kind of on your mentality? Is that something you've heard from your coaches and advisors and that type of thing that are kind of guiding you through this process?
Yeah, it's definitely something that I've heard from all those people. I work with a sports psychologist. That's another big thing for her is like you don't need to look at social media. Like sometimes it's going to validate you, and sometimes it could tear you down.
Sure.
So that's something I talk to them about a lot. But also it's a day to day thing. Like if I look too far into the future, I'm going to miss what I'm doing day to day here.
I completely agree with that because it's like you have to enjoy the journey too. Like
Yeah.
everything, that'll be an exciting time period,
Mm,
but there's so much right now to enjoy. Like you
yeah.
gotta, all the little things, even just the random weekday Chipotle sessions with your teammates. Like
Yeah.
those are a huge part of the journey that get you to that weekend and the other times in the future. But
Yeah.
it's all the little stuff along the way. So it's good you have that mentality. So you're kind of avoiding some of those like looking at all of it and just focusing on yourself, which is, you know, what I think anyone would encourage you to do.
Yeah.
Are you being talked to by NHL scouts and coaches? Like, how is that? Is that a process similar to the college recruitment side of things, or is that totally different?
It's a little similar. I think so far I've taken 6 questionnaires. I've had a couple personality evaluations where I get on with their team doctor
Mm,
and talk to them about like a personality test that I had to take. Um, I'll have teams text me and just be like, "Hey, there's a questionnaire coming. Please fill it out." Um, but there's gonna be teams coming up like once we start Hockey East play. Like there's gonna be teams that are coming to interview me after and stuff like that. They've said they're coming. So we got a thing where there's a policy where I'll talk to teams after home games, but I won't be talking to teams after away games. Just it's an away game. Don't want to be
sure.
holding up anything. So that's kind of where I'm at with that. So
What do they
hopefully
ask you on these questionnaires?
all kinds of stuff like some questions like what is the hardest challenge you've ever faced in life? Like what is your purpose in life?
Mm,
Some very deep questions that are in a survey where it's like a lot of questions and you're not really too sure how to answer. So
yeah,
it's different each time. A lot of questions are like evaluating yourself and what kind of guy are you? How would your teammates describe you? Um, I've given my teammates phone numbers
mm.
in case I wanted to reach out to them and stuff. So
Has a scout ever or a coach ever called you about another teammate who's in a similar process?
I've had college coaches do that. No NHL team has called me yet to ask about a teammate, but um, I've heard of other guys getting those calls and like for guys in their draft, you're like, hey, how's this guy like?
Hmm.
How is he in the locker room and stuff like that?
For me, I think that's super valuable because so much of it is knowing how they are with their actual teammates, like in
Yeah,
those moments in the locker room. Like normally as a coach, like you have a feel of the players and how they are obviously in front of you, and then you're around them enough, you can kind of determine or have an assumption how they are away from you too when
yeah,
they're just with their boys. But I think that's valuable because we all know players that are just totally different guys when they're in a private environment.
for
So
sure.
I think
Yeah.
that's huge. You're coming up and going through this season of so much pressure. You're working with a sports psychologist, and I know you have a whole support staff in your life to help you with all this. But how are you dealing with the pressure of just knowing that in these games, like there are scouts watching every single move on the ice, off the ice, on the bench, everything. How are you dealing with that?
I think it's one of those things where if you think about it too much, you're gonna end up consuming yourself with it. But the way I look at it is like you're always being evaluated.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Last year I was getting evaluated on, whether I would come into school or not, and then also like pre-draft stuff and like, getting my, name out there for the draft next year and kind of building that presence, I guess, in the scouts' minds and really like there's gonna be scouts everywhere, especially in juniors, and then
Yeah,
especially once we get into playing teams from Hockey East. Hockey East is such a good league. Like there's gonna be scouts everywhere. There already is.
sure.
So it's one of those things where it's like it's kind of inevitable. Every game is gonna have them at no matter what league you're playing in. There's always gonna be someone there looking.
Mm-hmm.
So it's something where it's like it's gonna be there regardless. You can't really focus on it.
Yeah, I agree. You just got to be you. You got to be the
Yeah,
same and be you at all times because you never, there's this whole thing where it's like you never know when you're in a job interview. You
yeah,
never know the guy that you're sitting across from or talking with or playing with or was your coach. Or for me, someone that I've coached is going to go on and do whatever. And then
yeah,
you run across them in a whole different way.
yeah.
So that's all good stuff. Just on the college hockey stuff, just to like wrap up here, on like a lighter note, like what are there any arenas that you're looking forward to playing at this year, or any specific teams you're looking forward to?
I think Army is gonna be a fun one. Visiting
Mm,
West Point, that's one of our out of conference games. We're going to Omaha for our out of conference. Unfortunately, we don't go to Maine this year.
mm,
That was one I think was gonna be a tough time. But I think playing the Boston schools, like anytime UMass can go in and take a win away from a Boston school, whether it's
right.
BC or BU, I like that's good. That's huge, and I think it's gonna be a lot of fun if we're able to go into their barn and steal a W.
Nice. Well, good stuff. This has been great.
Mhm.
You've touched on a whole bunch of different people here, but is there anyone specific you want to give an extra shout out to? Parents, family, friends, coaches, teammates, anyone?
Yeah. First of all, I'd like to get a shout out to my parents. Like without them, wouldn't be possible. So, my grandparents as well. Um, would like to give a shout out to my past advisor, Vince Pedri. Um, Fortunately, we had to split ways, but he was a big part of not only me getting a commitment, me playing in the USHL, and just me growing as a person. So that's what I've got for shout outs. But all those people played a big role in just being a good support staff for me.
Your parents are two great people,
Yeah,
through and through. They support you the whole way. One thing that's kind of interesting about your parents is your dad and your mom didn't play hockey.
I
So
know. Yeah.
your dad played football. Do you think that was like an advantage to you, or like because your dad got to just kind of be the dad to support you, and but he was learning from your experiences. How do you think that impacted you?
Yeah, I think it was one of those things where at a young age, like he learned a lot about hockey as I was learning, and he was kind of just as excited to learn about the game as I was in some ways,
Hmm.
which helped. And then, I get to an older age where I'm like, all right, like I think I know the game a little bit better than you do, and I don't take as much of his teaching anymore. What he knows, like you know, not to not to chime in on how I played and stuff, I guess.
Sure.
Um, but no, yeah, it was a lot of fun growing up and them just being very supportive. Like they were always supportive of me chasing
Hmm.
what I wanted. So there's never any doubt from them.
Yeah, I love that. And then your grandparents, you touched on them. I think
Mhm.
they were at every single SDI camp practice the whole summer, the whole time I ever knew you. It's like
100%.
they went to everything, always.
They
So,
they never missed one.
yeah, I would always, because, there's always a whole bunch of parents and various siblings and grandparents. And I feel like every time they'd be sitting right there. And the other thing
Yep.
I remember, they'd never even be on their phones or hands at their side or in their pockets the whole time, just watching every
Yep.
practice. And
They I love them for it.
yeah, and I'm talking June, July, August in the
Yep.
summer in Lincoln Park. So that's a big credit. So
I Yeah.
that's awesome. And then
Yep.
your advisor that you mentioned, Vince, he's an assistant with Penn State now, correct?
Yeah, he is. So we had to, part ways.
Yeah, for sure.
Mhm.
Cool. Awesome. Well, I appreciate your time here. It's good to get insights on some stuff that, like the college stuff, the NHL stuff that not everyone has experienced. So
Yeah.
I appreciate you opening up on some of that, and I wish you the best of luck this season.
All right. Well, I appreciate you having me on. Thank you.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, Landon.